All right. We are in chapter 1, day 7. We're talking about frequency and cumulative frequency and also box plots. So you're going to need either Staplet, which you could use. I'm going to use the calculator here, but you could just as easily use Staplet, which would be super easy to do. So let's get started. All right. So frequency and cumulative frequency. So frequency, as you can see, there are 10 numbers here. Okay. And they're different colors, but that doesn't really matter. But there's 1, 1, 1, 3, etc. There are 4 8s. So with 10 numbers, how the cumulative frequency works is when you're making this right here, you ask yourself how many numbers are 1 or less. That's 1. How many numbers are 2 or less? That's still 1 because there isn't a 2. How many numbers are 3 or less? That is 1 here and 2 here. How many numbers are 4 or less? Well, that's 3 of them. And then you build toward 100%. How many numbers are 12 or less? Well, all 10 of them are, or 100% of them. Now, what's interesting about this is if you did a box plot, now I want to make something really clear. Cumulative frequency is always related to a box plot when they ask an AP question. So whenever you see a question on the AP test and it has cumulative frequency, my suggestion is you turn it into a box plot. Okay, let me give you an example of what they could ask. They could ask you, what is the shape of this distribution? Well, you can tell from the original distribution that it's probably skewed to the left. Okay, now how do you change a cumulative frequency plot into a box plot? Here's what you do. The lowest number is 1, so there is 1. The 25th percentile, which is right here, is going to be around a 3 or a 4, right? So there you go. The 50th percentile, which is right here, is going to be 8. What's interesting about this is the 75th percentile is also 8. So this is a case where the 50th and 75th percentile are the same. And then the 100th percentile is, of course, a 12. That's the box plot. Very unusual looking box plot. And again, if you think about it, because there are 4 8s, the 8 is the 50th percentile and the 75th. So it actually does make sense in that sense. Okay. So there's that. But if you're just looking to figure out how to make a frequency into cumulative frequency, that's what you do. Let's do another one. Okay. Here's the second one. How many numbers are 2 or less? Well, there's 1 of them. How many numbers are 3 or less? 3 or less, there's 3 of them. That's why it's 3 right there. How many numbers are 5 or less? 4 or less is the same thing. 5 or less, and it just builds all the way to that. Now, if you wanted to make this into a box plot, if you had this graph shown and you wanted to make it into a box plot, that wouldn't be too hard. So this is the minimum right here. 25th percentile is right here. Okay, 50th percentile is right here. 75th percentile is right here. And then there's the maximum over there. This is pretty much skewed to the right, which you can tell on this anyway, skewed to the right. Okay, so again, sometimes they'll ask you things like, they'll show you this and they'll say, what's the shape of the distribution? Make it into a box plot and then it'll answer itself. Okay, it's real easy to do. Okay. All right. Next thing here. All right, president's ages at inauguration. Now, if you want to type this into staplet.com, you can. Now, I'm going to opt to do this on the calculator. So if you have access to a calculator, that's great. I'm not quite sure if you have one quite yet this early in the year, but you can do it on Staplet, which we've gone over before in other videos. Okay, so here is here is the name. Here's the ages of the presidents right there. Now, you don't have to sort them. Just to remind you how to sort, just in case you wanted to. I'm going to go to the home screen. And I got to go stat. Then I'm going to go sort A is in ascending. And then I'm going to sort L1. Okay. So there we go. That's done. Now, stat. Now, this isn't necessary for this, but I did want to show you that skill. Our youngest president was not JFK. It was Roosevelt. Our JFK was the youngest elected president. I believe Roosevelt took office when the president was killed. I think it was McKinley. Anyway, side note there. So, anyways, what we're doing here, as we look back at this, is let's go ahead and make a box plot with this. Okay, so the box plot, the calculator will do it for you. So you're going to go set. First of all, let me walk through a few things. Go to y equals and get rid of anything in here, because you do not want a bunch of stuff in there, because it'll start graphing multiple things and give you dimension mismatch. So I'm going to go second y equals. And I'm going to turn on just one box plot, just one on. And then I'm going to go to, there are two box plots here, these two right there, one that's flashing and the one that's black. You want the one that has the dots, because that one will show potential outliers using the formula that you've learned. Okay, now, and I'm going to tell it L1 because it's list one. I'm going to go zoom 9, it'll graph it. That looks pretty symmetric, doesn't it? Very, very balanced. Looks very, very symmetric. Okay, so I'm going to hit trace, which is, where's trace? Trace is right here. So with trace, that's going to be real easy to kind of put together. Minimum's 42, 25th percentile is 50.5. Typical president, median is 55. 59 is Q3, and our oldest president was Trump, actually. It was actually Biden. I don't have Biden on the list. Biden's was inaugurated at age 78, I believe. He's not on the list. It's just an old list. I did update it the last year or so. So go ahead and copy this down, this particular list, right here on this box plot. Okay, so that's easy to do. Here are the key numbers, the 5-number summary. And you can go ahead and write them in. So it'll look like this. 42 is right about here. First quartile is 50.5. Second quartile is 55. Third quartile is 59. And then the maximum is 70. There you go. Very, very balanced. Now, if you wanted to make it into a histogram, that's real easy as well. So let me go ahead and bring back the calculator. Let's make it into a histogram. I'm going to leave that box plot there. Make it into a histogram. So second y equals. Now, to make it a histogram, you can do it by hand, but you could also do it here. So I'm going to pick that. I'm going to pick window, and I'm going to go, the minimum president was like 42. So I'm going to go 40. And I'm going to go 40 to I'm going to go 40 to 75 by 5s. I'm going to just use a real easy increment. And these scales are kind of tricky. So the Y minimum, we'll make that -1. The Y max, what would be the most in one bar? Maybe 15, maybe something like that. And then the scale, I'll make it 1s, and hopefully that'll work. Let me go. Don't hit zoom 9, hit graph this time, because you told it what to do. Hit graph. There we go. Looks pretty good. And then if you hit trace, you can see there are 3 presidents between 40 and 45. Apparently it doesn't include 45, so I guess 40 to 44, I guess. And then here's 45 to 49. There's 7 of them. And then here's 50 to 54. You get the idea. So that's kind of cool to be able to do. Now, you don't have to use the graphing calculator for that. You can make your own histogram just on your own. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. Now, the cumulative frequency, what's kind of interesting is, there's a couple of ways to do this in the cumulative frequency. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to use the box plot for this. Okay, you could count it and just build it up, or you can just make a real quick one with like 42 is down here, the 25th percentile is here, and then 50th percentile is right around there, 75th right around there, maximum, and then you would get a rough kind of idea what it was. This is made off of this, and it's exact, but you can kind of make a halfway decent one using the box plot and going backwards. But I guess I recommend just taking the exact number and putting it in this way. Okay, so there's your cumulative frequency plot. Now that takes longer than you think to do. I mean, that's but anyways, that's what we got. So it's actually not very hard. It just takes a little bit of time. Now, let's go ahead and see if we have any outliers. We're going to find out. I'll leave it right around here, right around. There we go, right around there. You're going to find out that Biden would be an outlier in terms of age. Trump is not quite. He's at the very edge of not being an outlier. Okay, so identify any outliers. The IQR method, remember that there are, the IQR, you got to go Q3 minus Q1, these two numbers up here. And that makes, what, 8.5? And then you got to go 1.5 times that, which is 12.5. And then you go, sorry about that, you go 12.5 plus 59, the upper quartile, you get 71.5. And then you go the 25th percentile minus 1.5 times AQR, and you get 37.75. Okay, so you got a situation where there's never been a president in this list above 71.75 years old. Now, if we included Biden, we would have an outlier. Okay, and we haven't had a president younger than 37.75 years. So again, that one is not. There's an outlier there as well. Now, the standard deviation method, you got to get the mean. And remember how to do that on your calculator. I'm going to go second quit. And you go stat, calc, one variable stats for L1, and hit calculate. And you need the mean and standard deviation. So the mean is, as you can see, is about 54.78. Now, the standard deviation, remember, this is for a sample and this is for a population. We basically have the whole population, so we could use this one, although I really don't care which one you use in this particular case. Okay, so let me go back to this. So I forget which one I used here, but you got, here's the formula right there, and you end up with an upper and a lower barrier, this and this. And again, Biden would be an outlier on this case, and there would be nobody. Of course, we can't have a president under 35 by Constitution, so 34.9 wouldn't be possible either. So anyways, that's really not a super hard section. None of this is that hard, especially early on in the book. But that is chapter 1, day 7. Hope to see you guys soon. Take care. Statman out.